Generani students, we are doing a lecture series of class 10 civics, federalism, and this is the third part of our lecture series. In this lecture series, we will study about linguistic states, language policy, and center-state relation. Now let's come to the topic linguistic state. So as you know that there are constitutional provisions to divide power between the center and the state government. But do you think that only these constitutional provisions can run a federal country properly? No. There must be spirit of federalism, there must be respect for diversity and a desire for living together because these are the shared ideals of a federation. So if we talk about linguistic state, then you can say that this was the first and a major test for democratic politics in our country. In 1947, the boundaries of several older states of India were changed in order to create new states. And uh, it was ensured that people who spoke the same language lived in the same state. Like the people speaking Tamil language are living in the same state, and the name given was Tamil Nadu. The people speaking Bangla language were ensured that they live in the same state, and the state was called Bengal, Pashchim Bengal. Then the people speaking in Gujarati, they uh, were ensured to be living in a separate state, and the state was called Gujarat. This way, the states were divided, or you can say created, on linguistic basis. But there were some states which were not created on the language basis, but they were created on the basis of culture, ethnicity, or geography, like Nagaland, Uttarakhand, and Jharkhand. These are the examples of states which were created on the basis of culture, ethnicity, and geography. When the demand for the formation of states on the basis of language was raised, then there were some national leaders who were very afraid that this will lead to disintegration of the country, and after some time these states may demand for making them independent, and they may be desired they may desire to become a independent country, but this did not happen. Our experience has shown that the formation of linguistic states has actually made the country more united, and also it has made administration easier. So if you are asked that what are the two advantages of creating linguistic states, then you can write these two uh, as advantages. Like first being that it actually made the country more united, and the second you can write that it has made administration easier. Language policy. If you talk about language policy, then it is a very important part of administrative decision, because in the first chapter we have seen that in Sri Lanka, after the Sinhala language was given the status of national language, there was a situation of civil war almost, and thousands of people were killed, and so many like it had a negative impact on the population which are not speaking this language. So, if any country recognizes a single language as a national language and ignores the other languages, then the people belonging to that language, the people using that language, will be obviously hurt, and this may lead to uh, protests and violence all over the country. So, this was the second test for Indian Federation, that how it decides the language policy, and it was decided that there will be no national language, and Hindi was identified as the official language. Now there were many safeguards to protect other languages, because there are many languages in our country. In fact, hundreds of different languages are spoken, but 21 major languages were chosen, and they were given constitutional validity. In fact, they were listed in the 8th schedule of our constitution to recognize them, to give respect to these languages. Now, today we have 22 languages, but at that time it was 21 in the 8th schedule of the constitution. What are the benefits of having these languages in the eighth schedule? Actually, any candidate who is given any examination may opt to take the examination in any of these languages. Means if someone is giving any examination, he or she has freedom to choose any of the languages which are provided in the eighth schedule of the Indian Constitution. And also the states have been given freedom to choose their own official languages. For center, it was decided that Hindi will be used as official language, but states have been given freedom to decide their local language as official language as well. Now, let us see about the attitude of the government in spreading the use of Hindi. Did they use very, you can say, radical measures to spread Hindi, or they were very lenient towards other languages also? So, when India was became independent, it was decided that English language will be used for official purposes only up till 1965, and after that English will not be used as official language. But there are many Hindi non-Hindi speaking states, and they demanded that the use of English must continue. So the central government responded positively. They responded by agreeing to continue the use of English along with Hindi for official purposes. So now we have Hindi and English both used as official languages for government purposes, for government communications. If you talk about center-state relations, then the constitutional arrangement for sharing power work in reality depends to a large extent on how the ruling parties and leaders follow these arrangements. Because in many cases, if there is a if there is a same party ruling in the center and in state, then the state government do not exercise their rights as autonomous federal units. They are somewhat governed by the central government. Even the central government can make them, uh, or you can say force them or influence them to make rules and policies in the matters of a state list. In fact, the state list is not in the control of center government, but still, if the same party is governing center and a state government, then the center government may be influencing their decisions related to the matters of state list also. So this way the federal units are not using their independent powers, and this was the case uh, earlier when India got independent. Almost in every state there were these states were being ruled by the Congress party, and the center was also ruled by this Congress party. So Congress leaders, which are part of the central government, used to influence the decision of the state government. And also, there are many cases where the center government may undermine the spirits of federalism, like when the central government, when there is a different party government in the state, like center is ruled by a different party and the state government is formed by a different party, then the central government misused actually their constitutional powers and dismissed the state governments. There are provisions for presidential rule or state emergency, and these provisions of the constitution were often misused by the central government, and the state governments are rejected, and president rule is imposed on these states because there are different party governments on the states. Like center is ruled by Congress party and the state government is ruled by Bhajpa party, then the center government would uh, reject the state government, will discontinue the state government and impose president rule, state emergency on that state using their constitutional powers. Actually, we must say misusing their constitutional powers. So this way, the center-state relations were very much dominated by the center government. Now, how this changed? So The rise of regional parties in 1990s and the era of coalition governments. These were the two facts that changed the center-state relationship, and they led to a new culture of power sharing and respect for the autonomy of state governments. Also, there were many judgments of the Supreme Court which made it very difficult for the center government to dismiss the state governments in an arbitrary manner. And now there were very rigid provisions, there were very rigid guidelines by the Supreme Court that if the central government wants to dismiss the state government, they must prove that this decision of dismissing state government is not arbitrary. And the Supreme Court has also the power of judicial review using which they can cancel this order of the central government of dismissing the state governments. So this way, after 1990s, we start noticing that the center-state relation were actually changed, and now the federal units, the state governments, started using their federal powers, the powers given in the constitution, independently without any pressure of the central government. So this is it for today, students. I hope you are following the message SMS, which is S for soap, M for mask, and S for social distancing. Keep yourself healthy and stay at home as much as possible. Don't go outside without any reason. Take good care of yourself, and I will see you in the next lecture. Thank you and Jenner.